Yeah. You got him?
Hello everyone, welcome to Helen World channel. I hope you super like it.
Okay, to our bike rodeo here. We're going to start with the safety briefing by our two special guests, the two members of the Newcastle Police. They're going to teach you about the bike safety. Then we're going to do our voting on the best decorated bike. And then we're going to split to the obstacle course and the Thunderdome. So I'll need some parents to kind of work each one. We're going to have probably 5 kids at a time. But I'm going to hand you off to our special guests. We're going to do a bike safety for you guys. Oops. So everybody please listen, and nobody ride their bikes, okay? All right.
Thanks for coming out, guys. It's nice and warm at least. My name is Detective Chris, and this is Deputy Eric. So we work for Newcastle Police Department here in the city, and we are 2 of the officers that are actually trained to ride bicycles for our patrol stuff. So we can actually go around and catch people doing bad stuff. And this is actually a lot better than a car because it's easier to sneak up on somebody on a bike than in a car, right?
You also save gas.
We do, except the gas comes from in here. Trust me, we just rode up the hill. So, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some basic stuff for you guys now that you're all riding bikes. I see some of you guys are getting on your training wheels. Some of you guys are off training wheels by now. But we want to make sure you're being safe when you're riding your bikes, especially when you're out in the street. So, it looks like everybody already should know the answer to this. What we're going to do is I'm going to have you guys raise your hand if you know the answers to these questions. And everybody that gets a question right is going to be deputized to it, okay? So, the first question I'm going to ask you guys is, before I even touch my bike, before I even go touch my bike, what should I be wearing right away?
A helmet.
Yep, we were to wear a helmet.
Alright, who's the winner?
Yes, your helmet. So with your helmet, obviously you want to make sure it's a good helmet. It's not something you made in your garage. The good thing about a lot of the helmets these days, they're obviously very light. And you want to make sure if you look inside of it that it actually fits you. You don't want a helmet that's like sitting like this. Okay, and you don't want a helmet that's sitting back here. Your helmet really does need to cover your whole head. One of the biggest injuries people get when they go off these bikes is a lot of times what we'll see with people that get into crashes on their bikes is they'll go over the top of the handlebar and they're going to hit right here. You think if you hit the ground with your helmet right here, it's going to hurt? Yeah, it probably will, right? I mean, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to hurt as bad if you didn't have a helmet, right?
Yeah. Like I hit my head in a brick wall here at a place to test how strong my helmet was.
And I'm sure it didn't feel as bad as it would have otherwise, huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure when you get on your bike, before you even get on, you have your helmet on. So, the next thing we're going to do when we actually go up to our bikes, when you actually get on your bike, there's a couple of things you want to check on your bike, okay? So, what, on your whole bike, again, raise your hand if you know the answer. On your whole bike, what's going to be touching the ground most of the time? You raise your hand first. Tires, yes. Tires are very important because that's the part of your bike that touches the ground, right? If you're having issues with if there's rocks on the ground, ice on the ground, stuff like that, the only thing that's going to get you over that stuff is the tire. So, exactly. So what you want to do when you get on your bike is, first of all, you want to feel your tires, and you don't want to just push down like this. When you're really checking your tires, you want to squeeze in like this, because this is weaker down here than the top. If you feel your tire, you feel how this is like really bulky and strong on the top, but on the side of it, it's really weak.
I can see that.
Yeah, so that's going to be, if your tire's flat, that's going to be a lot easier to feel a flat. So you got to get a spike pump and pump it up, okay? Actually,
It
and
was
you
really
can.
hard to squeeze mine.
Well, that's good. That means you had air in your tires.
Yeah, like I barely could feel my fingers together. Like I couldn't feel them at all.
That's very good. And you guys can have your parents help you with this, but all your tires, there's actually, if you look on them, there's a little number that tells you how much air you actually need in your tires. So your parents can obviously help you with that stuff, but the point is you want to make sure your tires have air in them. The other thing you want to check, I usually just roll my tires like this. There we go. I usually roll the bike like this real quick to make sure there's like no nails or anything like that sticking out, because the tire might not be flat right now, but let's say I go down that hill over there and there was a nail right here. It punches in when I go down the hill, and now I'm riding down the hill on nothing but a metal rim. It's probably not going to work, huh?
It will be like Lightning McQueen when he didn't stop for a break.
Absolutely. Except Lightning McQueen had 4 tires. We only have 2, right?
Yeah.
So he had it even better than we do. So make sure your tires have air in them. And the last thing you want to check before you get on the bike, let's say you're riding along and you come across something dangerous and you need to get out of the way, or you need to, what's the best thing you have on your bike to help you get out of the way? Raise your hand. Red helmet, way back there. Brakes, yes. You want to make sure your brakes are working, okay? So if you look at my handlebar right here, you see how my handlebar, even when I squeeze this all the way, I can still fit my thumb in between there. That means that the brake pad is pretty full and that it's going to engage really well when I hit it, okay? If I can squeeze my handle, this handle right here, all the way down to this, I need new brakes. I need new brake pads because I've worn them down so much that when I really have an emergency and I need to yank hard, I'm not going to brake as well on them, okay? So, real quick way you can check your safety on your bikes when you get on them is just feel your handles and see that they don't go all the way down to the handle, okay? If they do, you got to tell your parents that you need new brake pads. What's up? You have a question? Yes, so that's a little more of an advanced thing. That actually does matter with as far as being able to pedal and stuff too. There's 2 things for the seat, just so you know. One is when you're on your bike, you actually don't necessarily need to be able to touch the ground from your seat. When I'm sitting on my seat, my feet only touch the ground when I'm up like this. It's actually more important so you don't get hurt. Is what I do is the way to gauge it is this. So when I'm on my bike, here, I'll show you.
So like my feet barely touch the ground, but I know how to brake.
Yes, so when you're on your bike, the way to where your feet actually should be is when you're sitting on your seat. See how my foot's all the way down at 6 o'clock? Your knee right here should just have a very slight bend in it when your pedal's all the way down. That's going to prevent you from getting knee injuries, because when you ride a lot, if I'm up here, if my pedal was all the way down and my knee was up here, I would have to work a lot harder to pedal over and over and over again. So if I ride
with your one leg, so like this, I would have to kick it.
Well, I'm not that talented. I don't always ride one-legged. But even with both legs, it would really be hard. So you obviously want to make sure you can reach the ground. That is important. But even more important is that when you're sitting on your seat, you have this appropriate spacing right here, and that your leg is not too far down, and that it's not way up here. Otherwise, you'll get hurt.
So, but my bike, since I'm a little bigger than it, my knee kind of goes up a lot.
Well, no, you're where you are right now. That's correct. Put your foot all the way down. See how your knee is? You got that slight bend in your knee. That's how it should be.
Yeah, that's what I always do for some reason.
Nope, you're sitting perfect on your bike.
Yeah, I always sit like this. Like, I even ride like this.
That's good. It's good. So, when we're riding, there's a couple things we want to know. So, again, I'm going to raise the hands. When you're riding down the street, if you're riding on the sidewalk and somebody's walking down the sidewalk and you guys pass each other, who actually has the right of way? You, right here. Yep. The person walking or the person on the bike?
The person on the bike.
Why don't you try, we'll give you 2 guesses. So when you're actually in Washington, when you're on a sidewalk, if you're riding a bike and somebody's walking, they actually have the right of way. You actually have to let them go by you. When you're in the street though, who has the right of way? You or the person walking? Yeah, yeah. Now that being said, when you're in a street and a car, let's say you're in a bike lane and a car's next to you, who has the right of way? Oh. You're already deputized, man. What do you think? Right here in the white helmet, what do you think? You do. Do you think that a 2,000-pound car or you is going to win though if they decide to not acknowledge that rule? Who's going to win if the car decides they want the right of way?
The car.
Yeah, unfortunately they will. So we want you to make sure, even though you do have the right of way, we want you to make sure you're doing some stuff to make sure you're being safe, okay? So whenever you're riding along and there's a car next to you, let's say you're coming up to an intersection. You know how you're going to cross the street at like an intersection? Even if you have the right of way, we always want to make sure we're slowing down and we're looking back at the car. Because unfortunately, what do a lot of people do when they're in their car these days and they're driving? Look at that. Look how young he is and he knows that. Yeah, unfortunately, there's people that use their cell phone or doing stuff that they're not paying attention.
Like my dad plays video games.
No, I'm sure. I don't believe that.
He does. I see it with my own eyes.
Anyway, the point is we want to make sure that you look at the driver so you know that they're paying attention to you, because we don't want them distracted and coming in and hitting you when you turn over there, okay? Well, you at least could get hurt. We don't want that, anything like that, okay?
Like you could get concussion like my cousin did.
Mm-hmm. So always when you're crossing the street, even though you guys have the right of way, if there's a car around you, make sure they see you before you go. Another thing about being able to see you, so it's pretty bright out right now, right? When the sun goes down, what's a good thing to have on your bike to help with? Yellow helmet. Lights, yes. Okay, so I purposefully left some stuff off of these bikes when I set them up this morning. If me and my partner are riding along at night, can you see anything unsafe about either of our bikes?
Oh, yes.
They're both bikes. What's unsafe about any of the bikes, if anything? What do you think?
Lights.
Okay, are there lights missing on either bike?
No.
You don't think so?
Wait, I only see one light on that one, but 2 lights on the other.
Uh-huh. Right. You got it. So, we have lights on our bikes. We have this light in the back here, and we have this light up here. When we're riding at night, we always have lights on. Now, my partner does have these. You see, you have these reflectors. These reflectors are good because when people are driving and they have their headlights on, the reflectors will catch them. But what do you think somebody's going to see first? Me driving down the street with that bright white light on the front of my bike, or their headlights hitting this? Okay. Headlights? Okay, yep. My light is going to be seen first. So when you guys are riding at night, always either have a headlight here, or another good one is you can put a headlight on your helmet. Some people do that. It's just good to have a light, okay? Now, have you guys ever seen our normal uniforms when we're driving around in our cars? We hope not, right?
I only see the cars.
So our normal uniforms, see this color right here? Our whole uniform is that color, okay? You see how my shirt's a little brighter though? This is my bike uniform only. Why do you think, raise your hand, why do you think I would want a lighter shirt for my bike uniform? What do you think? Hmm?
There's a tiny wasp.
Why do you think you have a light helmet? How about that?
A light helmet?
Yeah, why do you think your helmet's that color?
I don't know.
You don't know? Who wants to help him out? Hello. Why do you think I wear a light shirt?
So you don't get really sweaty and hot. No,
Lightweight color.
You know, that's actually, that's not a terrible answer. It's not the primary reason, but yeah, that's not bad. What else, guys? What do you think?
Because you can see it better.
Yes. So when we're riding at night, we are riding in dark places. Remember how I told you one of the advantages of riding our bikes is we get to sneak up on people better than a big SUV with lights and sirens on it?
Because I see the police and just go away.
Yeah, we can sneak up on people better, but we give something up with that. And what we give up with that is visibility. So yeah, we can sneak up on people, but it's a lot harder for good people to see us if we're wearing all black at night riding a bike. So that's why we wear light clothing. So what I'm getting at is if you guys are going to be riding after school, especially now that it's going to start getting darker earlier, you want to make sure that you're trying to either wear like a light helmet, like one of these guys over here, or a light shirt, something like that. If you're going out and you're riding in all black,
I have a bunch of colors on mine.
you do. And your bike, yes, that's another good thing. If the bike itself is light, a lot of bikes, especially as you get older, they make them a little darker. But regardless, if you're wearing something that's light, it's much more likely, even if your lights, they don't see your lights, they'll see you in the distance and they'll see that bright colored shirt or that bright colored pants or that bright colored bike.
I have a bunch of colors on me. I just think colors are more exciting.
When you're young, yeah. We wouldn't benefit from that. If we put too much electric green on my bike, I'd stand out just as much as in my car, unfortunately.
Why? Because then you get close. This is my cousin's old bike, so yeah.
Still works, right? Okay, so the last thing we want to make sure you guys know how to do before we head out and actually start riding, when you guys have an emergency on a bike and you brake really hard, what do you think's better to do? So if
Use both ways.
well no, so let's say I'm riding along, and all of a sudden a car jumps out in front of me and I have to brake really hard, okay? So what do you think I should do if I hit my brakes? So first of all, let's raise our hands. How many people have one brake on their bike? Raise your hand. How many people have two brakes on their bike, a front and a rear brake? Okay, so this is an easier question for people with only one brake. If you're going to hit that one brake, right? If you have an emergency. Now, for the people that have two brakes on their bike, raise their hands. Which brake do you want to hit first? Do you want to hit the brake on the right or the brake on the left first? Superman, what do you think? How about this? Do you want your front tire stopping first or your back tire stopping first? Yes. So on my bike, my left one right here stops my back tire. Okay? My right one stops my front tire. If I'm not careful, if I go to hit the right tire first and I get that front tire stopped first, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to learn to fly for a couple seconds. And that helmet's going to be used, unfortunately. So when you have an emergency, if you need to brake quick, make sure your rear tire, whatever brake you have, you're using the rear tire. All the front brake on a bike that has two brakes on it, it's basically like a support brake. This is your main brake, this is your support brake, okay?
So I have one in this, so if I go like backwards, then it would brake, but so this is
I really doubt you're going to be able to go fast enough to flip going backwards and braking too hard. I think you'll be fine.
But I'm a little scared of going down hills.
You know what you can do to help that? Have you ever just like gently hit your brake and notice how it slows you down a little bit?
Yeah.
Instead of yanking on it, if you just gently hit it, you can actually use your brake to kind of slide you down those hills a little bit more controlled, and then it's not as scary.
So kind of like this.
Yeah, you just gently, you basically pull it. You know, you feel how you can pull it, and all of a sudden you can feel it catch the tire, like right at the edge of the tire. If you do that, your bike will actually go a lot slower down hills.
Right.
When we have to go through crowds, like sometimes when I used to work in Seattle, we would have a lot of people that would basically sit down in the street and yell. When that happened, we still had to ride our bikes, but we had to be able to get around those people and not hurt them. So what we would do is we would actually practice just basically gently holding our brake, and that allows you to turn very nice, and it allows you to be very controlled, and you can be a lot slower and more secure while you're on your bike. So if you're trying to do like very tight turns or you're trying to go down a hill and you're scared, that's one thing you can do. You can just gently hit that brake and it'll help you slowly go down. Okay? So besides that, did you guys have any questions for us?
No.
No? You guys ready to go ride the course?
Okay.
Cool. Well, I'm going to turn it back over to them then. We'll be here for a little bit if you have any questions.
So everybody say thank you. Come ahead.
We have to do a course.
Okay, kids. Cub Scouts, this is what we're going to need. We need everybody to put their bike on the line and get off the bike. Get off
But
the
then
bike.
mine would roll away.
What we're going to do is we're going to vote for the best bike. You're going to do it? Your bike's right now. You're going to get your bike. You need to go to the front of that station. I need some volunteers. Or in front of this
I
station.
don't want to.
And we have a lot of kids, so we're only going to do 5 on each at once. So you're going to come up the obstacle course this way, and over here is going to be 1 lap. So we're going to get a couple volunteers to monitor that, and a couple volunteers over here. So kids, put your bikes here, and come to me. And later we'll do the cups. Come here.
That line over there.
That's your bike and pick your favorite bike. This and the cup of your favorite bike. Oh yeah. Yeah.
What about my Jordan?
If I'm getting there. Okay, here you go. Grab a quarter from those guys. Make sure your bike is ready, okay? Get your bike checklist, okay?
The quarters is for you to vote for the bike. So you see the cups. Whichever one you think is the most best one, you put it in that cup in front of you.
Bây giờ là lúc mà các courier sẽ vào vòng đua nha mọi người. Courier Helen thì đang dắt xe. Ô, có một courier rất là xinh đẹp. Xe đầy hoa. Rồi bây giờ mọi người sẽ chạy xung quanh cái đoạn này để tập chạy xe đạp. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So here's what you're going to do. And when you finish, you can go back over here.
Courier đợt 2. Courier sẽ đi đợt 2 để tập luyện chạy qua các chướng ngại vật. Hiện tại thì Helen thì xuất phát đầu tiên nhưng mà đang bị rất là nhiều bạn khác vượt qua mặt. Cuối cùng thì cô ấy cũng đã chạy về đích. Rất bình tĩnh, tự tin, chạy từ từ. Không tranh giành đường ai. Ok, còn đây một nhóm khác là để tập luyện và chướng ngại vật. Rồi bây giờ sẽ đến lượt quý đỏ để xem Helen chạy như thế nào nhé. Cố lên Helen. You missed one. Các bạn để ý nhé, sau một hồi luyện tập thì Helen đã đi tương đối ổn rồi. Điều đặc biệt là Helen rất là chịu khó tập luyện. Các bạn thì chạy chơi nhưng mà Helen vẫn sắp hàng để vào được đi cái chướng ngại vật này rất nhiều lần. Mọi người xem nhé. Miss One. Yeah. Uh-oh, small accident.
Hello everyone, thanks for watching. Share, like, and subscribe.